So we stood outside our latest BRRR project. It cost us about 31,000 to fully refurb from top to bottom. So we're going to do a quick walk around now, explain quickly what we've done to the property, and then in the second part of the video, we'll break down exactly how much everything cost. So come on through. So the first thing you'll notice is brand new composite door put on, even though there was nothing wrong with the old one. Always best practice and always the thing that I tell my mentees, get a brand new door put on, especially for the BRRR when you want your valuer to turn up and have that good first impression. I'm not going to do a detailed video here because I know just check out the other videos on this refurb on this channel. But before we carry on, about 75–80% of people that watch the videos don't subscribe. So do me a favour, just spend 2 or 3 seconds, hit that subscribe button. You'll do us a massive favour. Right, so in this property then, it's got pretty much gone back to brick, 80% throughout the property really. So I'll break down how much it all cost for the plasterer to come in. We've also as well brand new rear wire throughout the property, so I'll mention that. Brand new gas central heating. The property did not have gas central heating before, and this is an important thing. We assumed, this is why you should never assume, that there was gas in the property. The gas meter was actually downstairs in the cellar. So because it had a plastic cap on, we thought that the gas feed was still live. Anyway, it wasn't. So I'm going to mention how much it cost for Cadent, the gas supplier, to bring the gas into this property. A meter, and I'm sure you'll be shocked at that if you've never brought gas into a property before. I'll mention as well how much it costs for the strip out. So like I said, we'll probably paste in this comment section the link for the previous videos. So maybe have a look at from wreck to rent ready, the day we picked up the keys, and then from rent to rent ready part 2 as well, because you'll see how much rubbish there was in this property really. So I'll mention how much it costs for brand new woodwork throughout really, which includes skirting boards, architraves. I think there's 5, maybe 6 internal doors, hinges and so on. One thing that you can't actually see though is we had to have this floor leveled off. So that's one thing, again, it's a hidden expense. You can't see it. It's not a visual like all these nice finishing touches, but those are things you need to be aware of and factor into your budgets really. So just a standard Howden's kitchen. However, this is 1,000,000% better than the one that was in prior to this. So I'll mention how much all this costs, including the hob, extractor fan and so on. Like I said, really, that's always a big expense. The combi boiler and so on, the 5 radiators. There was no gas central heating to this property. So I mentioned how much it'll cost as well for the flooring, which includes, there's no tiles in here because we're always going to cater for our end user. This is an ideal finish for our end user here, which is obviously BRRR, but there's a nice family lined up, a small family lined up here to move into the property, which is fantastic. I mentioned how much the handrail costs, spindles and so on. I'll also include as well, again, another hidden cost you can't really see. This came down to here, so we had to knock off maybe about 8 or 10 inches of floor space from this back bedroom. I'll identify how much that costs. So coming up the stairs now. So pretty much as it is really up here. A big thing, especially if you haven't watched this video before, this room that we're going to go into, well, there's 2 rooms, was one big room originally. It had a double bed, wardrobes, and it had a toilet in one corner and a shower in another corner. So yeah, I did say that right. It was all in one room. But first of all, well, let's go into this back bedroom. So again, really, I think we've mentioned everything that I'm going to identify on here. Radiators, rewire throughout, including additional sockets, new internal doors, skirting board and so on. But this ceiling here, again, another hidden expense. The old ceiling is probably 6 or 7 inches above that. So we had to bring down and introduce a new false ceiling really, because these properties are about 1880, something like that. So they've been around obviously 120, 130 years and so on. So we didn't want to bring down the whole ceiling because that would have cost even more into the budget, even more. Plus as well, it would have been an extremely dirty job. Coming into this area then. So as I said, this was all one open room. So what I'm going to mention in the video later is, I've got to turn on some lights here, how much it cost for the stud walls there, and obviously the stud wall on the other side. So we'll go into this front bedroom. I think pretty much this is everything again, very similar to the back bedroom, full rewired. So yeah, I'm going to cover all that later on. However, there's one thing on here. Obviously, it had, from what I remember, probably a fire surround, maybe came out about 4-6 inches. So we had to knock that out as well. And we're going to head off into the bathroom now. Like I said, if you haven't already subscribed, do me a favor and subscribe, especially if you want to keep up to date with some of the Black Belt Property Academy information. Going into the bathroom, brand new bathroom as you'd expect. So I will mention how much it costs for all of this, which includes the shower screen, the bath, the sink, obviously, sorry, the taps, the sink, the toilet, this radiator, the shower as well, the wall panels, and also there was no window here before. So again, I'll mention how much the builder cost, how much the builder charged us to do all that as well. So hopefully you're going to find out a lot of value from this video. Like I always suggest my mentees, write notes down, handwritten, put them on your laptop, whatever it is, but make notes and always learn. Knowledge is power, but really applied knowledge is power. So like I said, subscribe to this channel and we'll go straight away now on to the full breakdown of how much of these parts and sections cost for the refurb. See you on the other side. So part 2 of the refurb cost exposed. Now, I've got the sheet in front of me here. I was going to go all out and put it on the flip chart stand and that type of stuff, but I just thought as long as you get the information and as long as you get the prices, at least there's some value there for you. So I've got it all printed out here, broken down into how much it costs for gas central heating, bathroom, Howdens, electrics, plasterer, bits and pieces from Eurocell, builder, joinery, painting, roof/chimney, carpets, vinyl, front door, council tax, holding costs, EPC, skips, valuation fee, and materials as well. So, like I kindly asked at the start of the video, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do me a favor and just hit that subscribe button. Make a few notes on this. Now, as I'm going through it, I'm going to try and explain to help you, obviously, further you with your budgets and that type of stuff. Now, some of this stuff we could have got cheaper. For instance, gas central heating, I know we could have got that a little bit cheaper. Same for the bathroom as well. What else possibly? Maybe a little bit of Howdens. Now, the thing is, I'm a firm believer in you get what you pay for. Now, of course, we weren't going to overspend and put in the, the fancy type of bathroom and so on, and the fancy type of kitchen. But linking it across to the bathroom, I know that we could have got a little bit of a cheaper set, a little bit of cheaper, taps, a little bit of a cheaper radiator. However, we've got to think, what's our end value or what's our end goal? We wanted to obviously pull out as much money as possible from that, from the project, so we needed to just slightly go above and beyond. For instance, the shower that we've got in the bathroom, we could have put a cheaper one in for about 120 quid. Instead, we decided to go for one at 230, I think it was, something like that. So some of these figures you might look at and think, well, it's a little bit dearer than I'd pay, or that's a little bit dearer than I were expecting. We pay invoices week in and week out. Every Friday we pay invoices, whether it's ongoing projects, whether it's brand new stuff or stuff that's already in our portfolio. So the prices here are pretty much relevant to, current date now, November the 3rd. Was it November the 4th? Let me have a look at that calendar up there. November the 4th, 2026. So let's get into it now. At the start of the video, I said, how much do you think it costs to bring in gas into the property? So if you remember, I pointed it to in the corner of the front room / lounge. Cadent there, and again, you can't really do anything about it. Cadent charged £558 for that. Is that a lot of money? Now, I thought, because we'd never actually brought gas into a property before, I thought, you know what, it could be anything. We need it either way. It could be £1,000, it could be £2,000, it could be £5,000, because you hear these horror stories. The best thing that went for our advantage is, again, this having a good mindset, is the fact that it was only a metre away from our property, which was brilliant. If it was a big semi-detached or, even a big terraced house which had a really long garden, and we might have to bring it in 5, 10, 15 metres, then again, that's where the price would have really rocketed up. I think they charge 145 or 145 or 185 per metre for the dig. So again, you get your labour to dig out what's needed. to save you a lot of money there. But we were lucky that it came within the 1 metre and it was £558. So just be aware of that when you're on your viewings. Next one, gas central heating system. So this wasn't just a new boiler or just a couple of new radiators. This was a full new gas central heating system. So I think there's 5 radiators throughout. Brand new copper wire, everything, copper piping, sorry, excuse me, copper piping, everything. There was no central heating system there before. So that cost 4,715. Now again, I know we could have brought that in a little bit cheaper, maybe had a couple of smaller radiators, maybe go for a smaller boiler, but the thing is with our properties, I want them to be set and forget. And that also includes, a 10-year warranty. And I mention this a lot to my mentees. If you've got the option when you're fitting a new boiler to extend the warranty and go for 5 or 10 years, always go for it. So for us to extend it from 5 to 10 years costs an extra £200, which is £40 a year. That, it's an absolute no-brainer. On one of our properties that we picked up probably 3 or 4 years ago, the warranty had expired. We obviously didn't have a chance to renew it or anything like that because it had already expired before we bought it. We've just spent £460 on a new fan, and that's just one instance. Okay, so just be aware of that. So what else? The bathroom, that was 3,170. Now that included the rip out and obviously 3-piece suite. So the toilet, the sink, the bath, and the necessary taps and so on, and the radiator as well. So yeah, could we have got it cheaper? Yes, but I want to make sure that we're dealing with decent trades that are obviously going to look after our portfolio and make sure that it's in there. What you don't want is for a tenant to move in and then a week later the taps, not working. These things might happen, and again, that's why you need to snag your properties. But I want to make sure that we're not just fitting the cheapest of everything. Definitely not. Howdens, this includes brand new kitchen, all the skirting board throughout, all the architraves, throughout. Pretty much any woodwork really. So yeah, kitchen, skirting boards, door casings, architraves. So all of that, probably as well, bits and pieces for the joiner, £2,441.12. The electrics, full new rewire. Hopefully you're still with us. I know this is quite boring, but if you're finding some value for it, make sure you'll hit the like button and subscribe. The electrics were very, very DIY. Previous tenant had been in there, previous owner, had been in there since 1968. Lots of DIY electrics throughout the property. So we needed to make sure it had a new consumer unit. We needed to make sure we were putting additional sockets in rooms because obviously there was a single socket in the back bedroom, just one. I think in the front bedroom there was like 2 doubles, something like that. Maybe downstairs, I think there was a double, maybe 2 in the front room. So really, we pretty much doubled the amount of sockets, and they've all changed to double sockets rather than single sockets. So yeah, new consumer unit and so on. So that was 4,218. Now again, VAT registered, bathroom VAT, gas central heating VAT. So if you're dealing with smaller companies, you're not going to have to pay that, lovely 20% surcharge that we have to pay. Plasterer. So this was quite a decent price, really. We'd never used this chap before, really. Come recommended from the joiner. So the plastering was 2,850. So that was quite a good price, that really, especially considering what we paid elsewhere and so on. The builder as well, General Building Works, which was to install the new window. So again, if you've seen the video where the bathroom currently is now, there was no window there before, so they had to knock through, create that window. He also self-leveled the floor in the kitchen. So if you remember in that video earlier on, I mentioned that you can't really see it, but again, I know what the floor was like before. It's lovely and level now. We had to put 3 or 4 coats on that. And what else as well? The fire surrounds in upstairs and downstairs as well. Knock those out and to get rid of it as well. So that was £1,738.97. Going specific with a pound, shillings and pence, like I said we would do. All of the joinery throughout the property, which included a little bit of the rip out here as well, because people that were originally ripping it out could only do so much, and we needed to make sure the job kept moving. So, we ended up paying the joiner, I suppose, his decent rate to do little bits of, donkey work at some points. So the joiner was to fit the kitchen, boxing in the kitchen, boxing in the boiler and so on. All new woodwork throughout, like I said. fit the skirting boards, fit the architraves, fit the door frames, casing, hang, swing, whatever you want to call it, the new doors, ironmongery as well, banister handrails, spindles. I'm just trying to think what else I did there. A big thing as well, which you can't see, I don't know if I referred to it on the video, in the front part of the house, there's a suspended ceiling there. So the ceiling's probably a new ceiling, 6, maybe 8 inches lower than the existing one. We're lucky enough, we had enough headroom for that. So that took a lot of time, and the stud wall as well. So where you go, the wall in between the bathroom and the front bedroom. So again, there's a lot of work there really. That was 5,715. Is there a long time, the joiner? What else now? The roof and chimney, we did not budget for this. So this is another thing really, when you're doing your budgets and your due diligence, we'll allocate like £500 towards the chimney if we can't actually see the ridgeline or anything like that. We can't see the ridgeline or a decent enough because they're quite close together, these houses. But again, I'm always recommending this to my mentees. Take numerous pictures when you're in your viewings, have a look at the ridgeline from outside, see what it's like, see if there's any slates missing, see what the pointing's like on the pointing as well. Somebody mentioned this the other day. If you're watching this, you may or not do, you probably do not, but the pointing is really, how can I refer to it? The cement, the mortar in between each of the bricks. So again, if there's pieces missing out of that, water's just going to get through and it's going to cause headache. So again, so if that was a bit basic for you, but if it wasn't, and if you now know, then again, we should always be learning all the time. So that was 1,350. It was a case of spending 400 quid, 500 quid to point all of the chimney, or just drop it, because what we'd then just have to pay £400-500 in another few years to get it repointed again. I think from what I remember, without looking at the images, that was obviously to then felt up and batten where the chimney stack was, put in new tiles and so on, or slates, and do the ridge line. So yeah, that was 1,350. So if you notice, I'm trying to go in order now of the refurb really. Painting as well, which was happening at the same time. Now, painting, you can think of this and think it sounds a bit steep, because I know that we could probably get it done for, or we have done before, for about 1,400 two-bed terrace. But this was full, numerous coats, mist coat on top of the new plaster, and then numerous coats on top of that, all together with the materials, with the paint and so on, including outside the sills. Again, just wanted to make it pop. That was £1,769.60. So again, that includes throughout the entire house, numerous coats, obviously windowsill, woodwork, everything really, ceilings, and the sills outside, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1,769. I've mentioned the chimney. We're now getting onto the carpets and vinyl. Altogether, this was quite a decent price, really. I think it's because it's a small shop. He's keen and looking for business and so on. So £1,000 all in. So that was, I think it might have been 10, 12 mil underlay. Obviously in the carpeted areas. So that was carpet downstairs in the front room / lounge, the stairs, landing, and both bedrooms as well, and vinyl in the kitchen and in the bathroom. So yeah, £1,000 all in. This should always be one of the last things you do, putting your new front door on. The last thing it's a new composite door, so it's not a PVC door. Again, this is so that the value, when they turn up, they've already got that good first impression. This is a decent door. They haven't scrimped on the door. Wonder what else they haven't scrimped on. And again, this is why when there were viewings of tenants last week, that out of, I think it was 6, maybe 7 arrived, 5 of them wanted the property. Was it because of the front door? Probably not on its own, but the front door combined with everything being new inside was probably a good reason why they wanted the property. So that was £1,027.78. So again, you might think, why we're concerned with the pence side of things, because you need to make sure you're nailed on into exactly how much everything costs. Council tax, holding costs. So 1, 2, 3, 4 months on here at £161 each. So that's 644. And because that council tax is now due again, I think it's just over a week's time. It's about the 11th of the month. There's probably going to be another £161 that we need to pay there. So that's £644 just on council tax. What else? EPC we had done again to bring it up, or to make sure that it was new, £72. It's quite all right. Skip. Now, this was only, I can't remember, the skip was to get, I think it was the initial rip out really. That was £160, but I know that we had another skip at one point. It might be in with a rip out at the start or maybe other bits and pieces. So I might have bundled that into another category there. Eurocell for the bath panels. So the wall panels that you'll see on the bath, around the bath, again, we could have got slightly cheaper, slightly thinner. Those were £205.49. But, you know, it looks fresh, it looks sharp. People that have gone in know that it doesn't need anything. That is what you class as a turnkey property. Valuation fee. Now, why we're budgeting valuation fee? We don't really need to, but it's good for us to see on here. This is exactly how much this property cost. Valuation fee, this is with precise, of £410. You know, you've got others like TMW, the Mortgage Works, Fleet, and so on. We decided to go with Precise because that's who we had the bridge with, and previously they tend to have done a little bit better in valuations than TMW and so on, especially over the last 18 months. So, you know, we include the valuation fee in the refurb costs and everything because we want to know how much it all costs. And then miscellaneous materials, stud walls, plasterboards, bits and pieces throughout. That was just over £1,000, £1,093.19. So altogether, can we see it there? That is how much it cost there. So £33,338.15. So again, I hope that's helped some people. Definitely, like I said, I was going to do it on the flip chart and that type of stuff, but I just thought it was, as long as you get the decent information there that you need to take it a step further forward. Hopefully, like I said, you found some value in this. Some of the things, as I mentioned before, I'll hold my hands up, we could have got a lot cheaper, but there's going to be a lack of quality, and same for some of the trades as well. If I could have got them cheaper, and I did do that years ago, but they're going to cut corners. They're not going to turn up on Monday morning, or they're going to leave super early on Friday. You're not going to be able to get in touch with them, and they're juggling numerous other jobs. I want to make sure that our jobs are moving all the time. Again, quality costs really. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to this channel for us. Definitely hit the like button, and if you're interested in personal growth really, and again that transformational journey, have a look into the Black Belt Property Academy. Check out the link below. We take white belt beginner property investors through to black belt and beyond. Okay, it's not just learning. This is how you do a BRRR. This is how you do a flip. This is how you deal source. This is how you do a reef. It's everything really. And the main thing is this up here. The skill set without the correct mindset will leave you upset. So we always want to be building on this all the time. Good luck. Keep taking steps further forward, and I might see you soon. Take care.